The storm forming in that dining room was far worse than the wind howling outside the glass-paneled walls of my father's lakefront mansion in Vermont. My father handed my younger brother a hefty envelope and said, "Congratulations, Ryan. You deserve it." He owned the firm, the offshore accounts, and the deed to the villa. I sat across the oak table in silence, feeling 10 years old all of a sudden. I was trying to remain calm, and my palms were chilly against my slacks. Ryan looked away from me, his eyes down, his lips tense. With her eyes fixed on the ground, my stepmother fidgeted with her jewelry. My father then turned to face me. He sneered, "And you, Lily, you've always been a dreamer, weak, too kind to live in the real world." I felt sick to my stomach. Even though there were 4 people in the room, my stepmother, Ryan, him, and the lawyer, I felt completely alone. He shoved the man in the suit with a pile of papers. "This needs to be signed." I croaked, "Dad, please don't." He gave an eye roll. "Lily, please spare me. You decided to go. Remember how you wanted to discover meaning in life?" In a mimicking air quotation, he lifted his fingers. "For what reason did you leave this family to work in a clinic abroad? Time was squandered. There was no money or title." "You never asked why I left," I whispered. "You never cared." "And I still don't," he snapped, "because Ryan was here." "Ryan showed loyalty." "He showed you what you wanted to see," I said quietly, "but he lied to you." My father laughed bitterly. "That's jealousy talking." The attorney, a gray-haired man named Mr. Whitman, shifted awkwardly, his fingers tightening around the folder. "Actually," he said, clearing his throat, "before anyone signs, there's something you should hear." My father frowned. "What is it?" Mr. Whitman looked him straight in the eye. "There's a sealed amendment to the will, added 6 years ago at the request of your late mother." My heart jumped. My grandmother, the only one who ever truly saw me, the only one who used to say I had more strength in my silence than most people had in their loudest moments. "What amendment?" my father snapped, irritation rising. Mr. Whitman calmly opened the leather folder and withdrew a yellow document. "This was filed during your mother's final appointment with the notary. Her instructions were clear. It was to remain sealed unless you ever attempted to disinherit Lily." My father's face twitched. "That's ridiculous." "She had no such authority." "She did," Mr. Whitman replied, his tone firmer now. "She retained 51% ownership in Harborcrest Holdings until the day she passed, and you never challenged it legally." "She had every right." Ryan shifted in his seat. My stepmother froze, hands still resting on the diamond pendant she always wore when she needed to feel powerful. Mr. Whitman turned to me. "Miss Lily, would you like to read it, or shall I?" I didn't move. My eyes stayed locked on the envelope in Ryan's hand, the one that held everything my father believed he controlled. "Read it," I said softly. He cleared his throat and unfolded the page. "In the event that my granddaughter, Lily Whitmore, is deemed unworthy by her father, I hereby grant her full authority over my share of Harborcrest Holdings to be enacted immediately. All voting rights are to be transferred to her name upon activation of this clause. This amendment shall override any previous agreements regarding decision-making or ownership within the company or family estate." Silence. Only the sound of rain against the windows, softer now as though even the storm was waiting. "What the hell does that mean?" my father barked. "It means," Mr. Whitman said, turning toward me, "that your daughter is now the majority shareholder. Nothing you sign today can override that." My father shot to his feet. The chair screeched backward. "This is absurd. She doesn't even understand the business." "Maybe not your version of it," I said, rising, my voice steady, "but I know how to lead, how to protect, how to build without tearing people down." I took a step forward. "You said I was useless, but I never needed your validation." I turned to Mr. Whitman. "Let's move forward. We have a company to run." Ryan stared at the table. My stepmother opened her mouth to speak, then didn't. My father never sat back down. If you felt that moment shift the power back where it truly belonged, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because what happens next will leave even her father speechless. But he didn't say a word. He just stood there, silent, rigid, as the world he thought he controlled shifted beneath him. The room was thick with a stillness that screamed louder than any argument ever could. My father remained upright, lips a hard line, his jaw clenched so tight I could see the tension pulsing in his temple. His knuckles were white around the edge of the chair he'd shoved back, and for the first time in my life, I saw something I'd never seen in his eyes: fear. Not the kind that lashes out, but the kind that sinks in, a quiet, soul-deep fear of losing something he never thought he'd have to fight for. "Please sit," I said gently. I didn't say it to shame him. I wasn't here for revenge. I only ever wanted what had been withheld from me for decades: dignity. Still, he didn't move. Instead, Ryan finally spoke. "Wait, this isn't right." She left. He looked around the room, searching for support. She wanted no part in the business. She ran off to help people or something. I built homes for women escaping abuse. I funded transitional housing for veterans, I said evenly. I didn't run away. I ran toward something that mattered. He scoffed. "That's nice and all, but you don't know how to run Harborcrest." "I know enough," I said, locking eyes with him, "to know you've been skimming funds through a shell corporation registered under your college roommate's name." Ryan paled. My stepmother gasped. "Lily, stop. This is family." "Was it family?" I asked, my voice breaking, "when you sat by as he called me a failure? When he handed everything to Ryan without acknowledging the sacrifices I made for all of you?" "You were never built for this world," she whispered. "No," I nodded, "you all made that clear. But Grandma thought differently." Mr. Whitman cleared his throat. "Miss Lily, your grandmother didn't just leave you shares. She left something else, meant to be given only after this moment." He opened his briefcase and retrieved a small, weathered box. Inside was her old gold-plated compass. Beneath it, a folded letter with my name in her delicate script. My fingers trembled as I opened it. "My dearest Lily," it read, "if you're reading this, it means your father has done exactly what I feared. Don't hate him. He's a product of a world that told him power is louder. You were never weak. You were the quiet strength that held us together. This compass is yours now because, no matter what path you take, I trust you to lead." Tears threatened, but I blinked them back. I turned to Mr. Whitman. "Let's proceed." As I signed the acknowledgement of my controlling stake, my father finally spoke. "You think this makes you powerful," he said, voice low. "You think she gave you this out of love? She did it to spite me." I looked at him, really looked, for once not as a daughter seeking approval, but as a woman who saw the truth. "No," I replied, "she did it because she believed in me, and she knew I'd use this power to build, not break." I walked out with my head high, years of rejection falling from my shoulders like rust. But what waited outside wasn't peace, it was war. Because power brings enemies, and Ryan wasn't finished. I'd barely reached the corridor when I heard footsteps. "Lily," he called out. I turned. His voice was calm, but his eyes calculating. "You don't have to do this," he said. "Do what?" "Push me out," he shrugged. "That's your next move, right?" "I haven't made a move," I said quietly. "I simply stood up." He chuckled. "You think signing some papers makes you powerful? You don't have the backbone to lead." My heart pounded, but I didn't flinch. "I'm not here to prove myself to you, Ryan. I'm here to lead with integrity, something this family forgot." He stepped too close. "I give you 2 months," he sneered, "before you crawl back." "The company's not a charity, Lily," he said coldly. "It's a battlefield." "No," I replied, lifting my chin. "It's a platform, and I'll use it to build, not break." "You really are naive," he muttered, shaking his head before turning away. But something about the way he left stuck with me, his clenched fists, the stiff shoulders. This wasn't surrender. It was just the beginning. The next few days moved like storm clouds rolling in. Word traveled fast. Lily Whitmore was back, and this time, she wasn't just visiting. People whispered my name like it was a ghost story. Some were hopeful, others afraid. I didn't fire anyone. I didn't hold flashy meetings. I listened. And what I found was worse than I expected. Departments were turned against each other. Promotions were handed out based on loyalty, not merit. Employee burnout was ignored. This wasn't a business, it was a kingdom, and Ryan had studied under the king. One afternoon, I entered the break room. Conversation stopped cold. "Please," I said, raising my hand, "you're on break." Sit. Eat. A janitor named Rosa stood slowly. We weren't allowed to sit if Mr. Ryan walked in. I blinked. That changes today. Her face softened. That night, I stayed late, reviewing reports. I found 3 misused budgets, a shady deal with a questionable supplier, and a list of employees who'd been terminated after raising concerns. This wasn't mismanagement, it was rot. If I didn't act fast, I'd be blamed when it all fell apart. The next morning, Ryan stormed into my office, holding a folder. "You want the CEO's seat?" he snapped. "Let's see you survive this." He tossed the folder on my desk. Inside, screenshots, emails, and photos. "These are fake," I said, flipping through them. "Can you prove it?" he smirked. "You really want to destroy me?" "I want what's mine," he hissed. "You were never meant to win." I stood slowly. "I don't want to win, Ryan. I want to fix what you broke." "I see power," he sneered. "You see weakness." Then he turned and walked out, and I realized this wasn't rivalry, this was war. But I had something Ryan didn't, the truth. Within 48 hours, headlines flooded in. New CEO accused in charity fraud, family feud at Harborcrest Holdings, Lily Whitmore, legacy leader or liability. It didn't matter that it was fake. The public didn't wait for truth. My inbox exploded with PR alerts. My phone wouldn't stop. Shareholders were panicking. I had barely begun, and I was already bleeding credibility. I told myself to stay calm, but late one night, locked in my office, I broke, not loud, not messy, just silent sobs, curled on the couch. I wasn't crying because they didn't believe me. I was crying because maybe, just maybe, my father had been right. Maybe I wasn't cut out for this. Then came a soft knock. I wiped my eyes fast. The door opened anyway. Rosa stood there with a paper cup. "Thought you could use this." "You didn't have to," I whispered. "You looked like you needed it," she said, walking in. No one ever brought me anything when I cried in this room. So maybe someone should break the cycle. Something inside me cracked again, but in a softer way. "Thank you," I said. She sat down across from me. "Miss Lily," she said, "do you want to know the truth about your family?" I looked up unsure. She nodded. "I've worked here 28 years. I've seen more than most, and I've seen what they hide." "You always looked me in the eye," Rosa said gently. I couldn't speak, my throat tightened. "You may feel alone now," she continued, "but you've got something they'll never have, loyalty earned through kindness." I blinked, trying to steady my breath. "Why are you helping me?" "Because someone once helped me when no one else did," she smiled, "and because this company doesn't need another king. It needs a healer." The next morning, I walked into the boardroom with quiet resolve. I let them speak first, accusations, doubts, demands for resignation. One shareholder even threatened a lawsuit. When they were done, I stood. "If anyone here can prove those documents are real," I said clearly, "I'll step down today." Silence. Then I dropped the original reports onto the table, evidence of Ryan's financial misconduct, hush money, side deals. Then I turned on the projector. Footage played, Ryan entering a locked office, plugging in a USB, transferring files. The timestamp matched when the forged documents were created. No one spoke. "Truth matters," I said, "but I didn't come here to destroy my brother. I came to repair what he broke." I turned to the company attorney. "My grandmother gave me this role, not because I was perfect, but because I still believe in people, even those who hurt me. I'm not pressing charges," I continued, "but Ryan is suspended and a full investigation will proceed." There were stunned expressions. Then Mr. Halpern, a retired board member, stood. "I doubted you," he said. "Thought you were just another idealist. But today, you reminded me why we built this company. It was about people, not power." And just like that, the energy in the room shifted. Ryan didn't come back. But 2 days later, I received a letter in his handwriting. "Lily, I don't expect forgiveness. I didn't just want control, I wanted to be seen. I always thought you got the love I never did. Maybe you just earned it differently." "Right." I folded the letter and placed it beside my grandmother's compass. Not every ending needs a sword. Some arrive in stillness, and some beginnings are born from grace. The office felt different now, not quieter, more awake. It had been a month since the boardroom turned. The media retracted the false claims. Some tried to call it luck, but those who mattered saw the truth, not because I shouted louder, but because I held the line with integrity. One person, though, still hadn't reached out, my father. No messages, no lawyers, nothing. I assumed he'd vanished to lick his wounds and blame the world. Until one Sunday morning, I walked into my office and there he was, sitting across from my desk, hands folded, eyes dull. I had to see it, he said. See what? That you didn't burn it down. I said nothing. He looked older, tired, for once not like a man in control, but like one who'd lost something that mattered. You were right, he said softly, about me, about Ryan, about how this place stopped being about people. I studied him, unsure if I could believe it yet. Why no? I asked. He pulled something from his coat, a photo, me and Grandma. I was 12, covered in paint. She was laughing. She said you'd change this family, he whispered. I just didn't want to believe it. If I did, I said gently, it's because she believed in me. He nodded. I came to say something I should have said long ago. He met my eyes. I'm sorry, Lily. For everything. Part of me wanted to say it was too late, but healing doesn't start with blame. It starts when someone finally breaks the cycle. So I nodded. Thank you. I just needed to say it before I ran out of time, my father said. Then don't, I replied gently. Fix what you can. It's not too late. He didn't respond, just gave me one last quiet look before slipping out the door. 2 weeks later, Rosa stepped into my office with a folder. What's this? I asked. A list of every employee your father let go for speaking up, she said softly. Figured you'd want to see it. I opened the file, read every name, and then we sent out letters, each one an invitation to return, no questions asked. Not because I needed redemption, but because legacy isn't built on bloodlines. It's built on how you make people feel when you leave the room. Months passed. The company didn't look flashier, it looked warmer. Ryan never returned, but we met once for coffee, no apologies, no digging up the past, just two siblings trying to understand each other. Maybe that was enough. My father kept his distance, but one day, I received a receipt, a 7-figure donation made in my name to the women's shelter where I once worked. No note, no signature, just his quiet way of saying he was trying. And that was enough. Because I didn't get revenge. I got something stronger, respect, peace, and a future no one could take away. Now, when I walk into that boardroom, I don't hear whispers. I hear footsteps of people who believe in me, all because one day, someone said I was nothing, and I proved them wrong without becoming them. If my story moves something in you, drop a comment below. Tell me what part hit hardest. Tell me what you would have done. I read every word because connection is what this journey has always been about. And if you're facing your own version of being underestimated, know this, you don't have to shout to be heard. You just have to stand steady in your truth. Subscribe to the channel if you believe in healing through strength and strength through kindness, because sometimes the quietest ones carry the loudest legacies.